Kofi's small hand reached into the dark river, the water cold as night. He wanted to touch the shiny fish he saw darting below. His fingers brushed something slimy and then a hand, cold, webbed and strong, grabbed his wrist. A voice, soft like a whisper but sharp like a knife, said, "Kofi, you're mine." He yanked his hand back, heart pounding, and stumbled onto the muddy bank. The river was still, but his name echoed in his ears. Then the mermaid emerged. Welcome back. As you enjoy the story, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and also share with your friends. Now back to the story. Kofi was only 10, a skinny boy with big eyes, living in a village hugged by a wide, winding river. The village had mud huts with thatched roofs, and the people wore raffia skirts and necklaces of red and blue beads. They fished, sang and told stories under the stars. But Kofi was lonely. His father was a fisherman who went out one night and never came back. His mother worked hard, weaving baskets to sell, leaving Kofi to wander alone. The other boys called him Fish Eyes because he stared at the river, hoping his father's spirit was there. The village had rules about the river. Never go near it at night. Never swim alone. The elders said a spirit lived in the water, a mermaid with skin that shimmered like fish scales and eyes that saw your secrets. She could be kind, bringing fish to the nets, or cruel, pulling men under if they disrespected her. Kofi's mother, Munsa, told him, "Stay away from the river at night, Kofi. The mermaid tricks children who are sad or greedy." But Kofi wasn't greedy. He was just lonely. At night, when the village slept, he heard a song from the river. It was soft like a mother's hum but wild like wind in the trees. One night he couldn't resist. He slipped out of his hut, his bare feet quiet on the dirt path. The moon was a thin slice and the river sparkled like it held stars. Kofi knelt by the water looking for the song's source. That's when the hand grabbed him. He sat frozen on the bank, his wrist stinging where the webbed fingers touched him. The water rippled and a face broke the surface. She was beautiful, with skin like moonlight on scales and eyes like deep pools. Her hair was long like river grass and she smiled. "Kofi," she said, her voice sweet now, "why are you sad?" Kofi's throat was tight. I miss my father. And I have no friends." The mermaid tilted her head. "I can be your friend. I can give you gifts, fish, shells, anything you want. I can keep you safe. But you must promise me something." Kofi's heart beat fast. "What?" "When you're a man, you'll marry me. You'll come to the river and stay with me forever." Kofi didn't understand what marriage meant, not really. He was 10 and all he wanted was someone to talk to. The mermaid's smile made him feel warm, like his father's hand on his shoulder. "Okay," he said. "I promise." She laughed, a sound like water over stones, and sank back into the river. The next morning, Kofi found a pile of fish by his hut, their scales glinting. His mother gasped, thinking the river spirit blessed them. Kofi didn't tell her about the mermaid. He felt special, like he had a secret friend. Days turned to weeks and the mermaid kept her word. Kofi found shells by the river, smooth and pink, perfect for trading. When he fell into the water once, chasing a frog, something pushed him to shore before he could drown. The other boys stopped teasing him, amazed by his luck. Kofi felt happy, but sometimes at night, he heard the mermaid's song again, and his stomach twisted. Her voice sounded closer, like she was watching. Years passed. Kofi grew tall, his shoulders broad from helping with fishing nets. His raffia cloth was now a short wrap, tied with a cord of twisted grass. The village girls noticed him, but Kofi only saw Amma, a girl with a laugh like bells and hands quick at weaving nets. Amma was kind, sharing her roasted yam with Kofi when he forgot his lunch. They sat by the fire, talking about the stars, and Kofi's heart felt full in a way it hadn't since his father was alive. One evening as Kofi walked Amma home, the river was too still. No fish jumped. No birds sang. Kofi stopped, his feet heavy. Amma touched his arm. "What's wrong?" Before he could answer, the water churned. A wave rose higher than any Kofi had seen, and crashed onto the bank, soaking their feet. Amma screamed, pulling Kofi back. In the foam, Kofi saw her, the mermaid. Her eyes weren't kind anymore. They were sharp like a fishhook. "Kofi," she hissed, "you promised me." Kofi's breath caught. Amma clung to him, confused. "Who was that?" she asked. Kofi couldn't speak. His childhood promise, made in loneliness, was coming back to haunt him. The river seemed to watch, waiting for what he'd do next. Kofi stood frozen, his feet wet from the river's wave, Amma's hand tight on his arm. The mermaid's voice echoed in his head, "You promised me." The air felt heavy, like a storm was coming, though the sky was clear. Amma's eyes were wide, searching his face. Kofi, what was that? Who was she? Kofi's mouth was dry. He wanted to tell Amma everything, about the lonely nights, the mermaid song, the promise he made when he was just a boy. But shame stopped him. How could he explain a promise he barely understood back then? It's nothing, he mumbled, pulling her away from the river. Just the wind. Amma frowned, her woven raffia skirt swaying as she stepped back. Her beads clicked softly, the red and blue ones she always wore around her neck. That wasn't wind, Kofi. The river, it moved like it was alive. Kofi's heart raced. He grabbed her hand and hurried toward the village, the mud path cool under his bare feet. The huts came into view, their thatched roofs glowing under the setting sun. Women pounded yam by the fire and children laughed, chasing each other with sticks. But Kofi felt eyes on him, not from the village but from the river behind. He didn't look back. That night, Kofi couldn't sleep. His mat was scratchy and the air in his hut was too warm. His mother, Munsa, slept nearby, her soft snores mixing with the crickets outside. Kofi stared at the roof, remembering the mermaid's face, her shimmering skin, her sharp eyes. He was 17 now, no longer the lonely boy who needed a friend. He had Amma, whose smile made his chest ache in a good way. But the promise he made 7 years ago felt like a rope around his neck. At dawn, Kofi went to the river to help with the fishing nets. The men wore short raffia wraps, their chests bare, beads tied around their wrists. They sang as they pulled the nets, their voices deep and steady. Kofi joined them, but his hands shook. The river was calm, too calm, like it was holding its breath. As he hauled in a net, something caught his eye, a shell, pink and smooth just like the ones the mermaid gave him years ago. It sat on the bank, alone, gleaming. Kofi's stomach twisted. He picked it up and the other men didn't notice. The shell was cold, heavier than it looked. He slipped it into his wrap, his fingers trembling. When he looked at the water, it rippled and for a moment he saw her face, just a flash, then gone. His friend Bako clapped his shoulder. Kofi, you look sick. Go rest. Kofi nodded, but he didn't go home. He went to the edge of the village where the baobab tree stood, its branches wide like arms. Amma was there, weaving a net with quick fingers. Her hair was tied back with a strip of woven grass, and her smile made Kofi forget the river for a second. You're early, she said, teasing. Miss me already? Kofi tried to laugh, but it came out weak. He sat beside her, the shell heavy against his hip. Amma, do you believe the stories about the river spirit? Her hands paused. The mermaid? My grandmother says she's real. She helps sometimes, but she's tricky. Why? Kofi wanted to tell her, but the words stuck. Instead he said, just wondering. Amma's eyes narrowed. You're hiding something, Kofi. I know you. Before he could answer, a scream came from the village. They ran toward the sound, feet pounding the dirt. By the river, a crowd had gathered. Munsa was there, her hands covering her mouth. A fishing boat was overturned, its wood splintered like something had crushed it. The fisherman, an old man named Didi, was soaked, shaking. It came from the water, he said. A wave, but not a wave. It had hands. The elders whispered, their bead necklaces clicking as they shook their heads. The river spirit is angry, one said. Someone has broken a promise. Kofi's heart stopped. He felt the shell in his wrap, burning against his skin. Amma looked at him, her face worried. Kofi, what's wrong? He couldn't meet her eyes. That night the village was quiet, too quiet. Kofi sat outside his hut, staring at the river in the distance. The moon was full, making the water shine like a mirror. Then he heard it, the song. The same song from when he was 10, soft and wild, pulling at his heart. He stood, drawn to the river like a fish on a line. At the bank, the mermaid rose from the water. Her skin glowed, but her smile was gone. Kofi, she said, her voice low, you love that girl. You want to break our promise. Kofi's knees felt weak. I was a child, he said. I didn't know what I was promising. You knew enough, she said. You took my gifts. Fish, shells, safety. Now you owe me. Come to the river tomorrow night, or your village will pay. Kofi's throat tightened. What do you mean? Her eyes glinted. The river listens to me. It can give or it can take. Tomorrow night, Kofi. She sank into the water, leaving ripples that spread like a warning. Kofi stumbled back to his hut, his mind racing. He couldn't tell his mother, she'd think he was cursed. He couldn't tell Amma, she'd be scared or worse, ashamed of him. But he couldn't ignore the mermaid either. The broken boat was just the start. He remembered stories of floods that swept away huts, of fishermen lost in calm waters. The river was her home and she was angry. The next day Kofi avoided the river. He helped his mother weave baskets, his hands clumsy. Munsa noticed. Kofi, you're not yourself. What's eating you? Nothing, he lied, but his voice shook. At dusk, Amma found him by the baobab tree. Kofi, talk to me, she said. You're acting like you're hiding from something. Kofi looked at her, her kind eyes, her steady hands. He wanted to protect her, to protect the village. But the mermaid's words rang in his ears. Tomorrow night or your village will pay. He took a deep breath. Amma, I did something stupid when I was a kid. I made a promise to the river spirit. Amma's face went pale. The mermaid? Kofi, what did you promise? He told her everything, the lonely nights, the song, the promise to marry the mermaid when he was grown. Amma listened, her hands tight in her lap. When he finished, she didn't speak for a long time. Then she said, we need to tell the elders. They'll know what to do. No, Kofi said, panic rising. They'll blame me. They'll say I cursed the village. Amma touched his arm. Kofi, you were a child. We'll figure this out together. But as they sat under the baobab, the river roared in the distance, louder than it should have. Kofi knew the mermaid was watching, waiting for tomorrow night. His promise was a debt, and the river was coming to collect. The river roared louder than ever, its sound creeping into Kofi's dreams. He woke with a start, his mat damp with sweat. The air in the hut was thick, and his mother's snores were the only sound besides the river's distant growl. Kofi's hand went to the pink shell tucked in his raffia wrap, its weight a reminder of the mermaid's words. Tomorrow night or your village will pay. Tonight was the night, and Kofi's stomach churned like the river itself. He slipped out of the hut, careful not to wake Munsa. The village was dark, the moon half hidden by clouds. The mud path felt cold under his bare feet, and his short raffia skirt swayed as he walked toward the baobab tree. Amma was waiting, her bead necklace glinting faintly. She stood when she saw him, her woven grass headband loose from a long day. Kofi, she whispered, you look scared. I am, he admitted, his voice low. The mermaid said I have to go to the river tonight or she'll hurt the village. Amma's eyes widened but she didn't flinch. Then we go together. You're not facing her alone. Kofi shook his head. It's my mistake, Amma. I can't let you get hurt. She grabbed his hand, her grip firm. We're stronger together. You told me the truth, so let me help. Kofi wanted to argue, but her eyes were steady, like the firelight in the village square. He nodded, and they walked toward the river, the air growing cooler as they neared. The water was wild, waves slapping the banks, tossing sticks and leaves. Kofi's heart pounded. He clutched the shell, its edges sharp against his palm. The village was tense that day. After the broken boat, the elders had burned herbs by the river, their long raffia cloaks dragging in the mud as they chanted for peace. The fishermen were scared, their nets empty for the first time in years. Children stayed away from the water, their laughter gone. Kofi heard whispers, people saying the river spirit was angry, that someone had offended her. He felt their eyes on him, though no one knew his secret except Amma. At the riverbank, Kofi stopped. The water was dark, reflecting the cloudy sky. Amma stood close, her shoulder brushing his. What now? She asked. Before Kofi could answer, the water bubbled. The mermaid rose, her shimmering skin glowing like fish scales caught in sunlight. Her eyes locked on Kofi, ignoring Amma. You came, she said, her voice sharp. Good. Keep your promise, Kofi. Come into the river. Be mine. Kofi's legs felt heavy, like they were already sinking into the mud. I was a boy, he said, his voice shaking. I didn't know what I promised. I can't marry you. The mermaid's face darkened. You took my gifts. Fish to feed your mother. Shells to make you proud. I saved you from drowning. You owe me. Amma stepped forward, her voice steady. He was a child. You tricked him. The mermaid's eyes flicked to Amma, cold and sharp. Stay out of this, girl. Kofi is mine. The river surged, a wave crashing over the bank, soaking Kofi and Amma. Amma stumbled but didn't back down. Kofi's chest tightened. I'm sorry, he said to the mermaid. I can't do it. I love Amma. The mermaid's scream was like wind tearing through trees. The river churned, waves rising higher, splashing mud onto Kofi's bare chest. You break your promise? She hissed. Then the river will take what's mine. The water roared and Kofi saw shapes in it, hands like the one that grabbed him years ago, reaching from the waves. Amma pulled him back, her hands cold and wet. Kofi, run, she shouted. They stumbled away from the bank, but the river followed. Water spilled over the edge, flooding the path, turning the dirt to mud. Kofi's heart raced as he and Amma ran toward the village, the roar of the river chasing them. Huts came into view, but the water didn't stop. It crept higher, licking at the edges of the village, pooling around the yam fields. People woke, their shouts filling the air. Munsa ran from their hut, her raffia skirt flapping. Kofi, what's happening? Kofi couldn't speak. The river's roar was deafening, and he felt the mermaid's eyes on him, even from so far. The elders gathered, their bead necklaces swinging as they raised their hands to the sky, chanting. But the water kept coming, slow but steady, like it was alive. Amma pulled Kofi behind the baobab tree out of sight. "We need a plan," she said, her voice low. "The mermaid's angry, but there's got to be a way to stop her." Kofi's mind was a mess. He thought of his father, lost to the river years ago. Was this his fault too? "I don't know how," he said. "She's too strong." Amma shook her head. "She's a spirit, Kofi. Spirits have rules. My grandmother told me stories. They can't take you unless you give yourself fully. You said no, so she's trying to scare you." Kofi looked at her, hope flickering. "What do I do?" "We go to the elders," Amma said. "They know about spirits. But you have to tell them everything." Kofi's stomach sank. Telling the elders meant admitting his mistake. They might banish him, call him cursed. But the water was creeping closer, and he saw children crying, clinging to their mothers. He couldn't let the village pay for his promise. They ran to the village square, where the elders stood by a fire, their faces grim. The head elder, Nana Yaw, wore a cloak of woven grass, his staff carved with fish shapes. "Who has angered the river?" he demanded, his voice loud over the water's roar. Kofi stepped forward, his knees shaking. Amma squeezed his hand. "It's me," he said. The crowd gasped, and Munsa's eyes widened. "When I was a boy, I promised the mermaid I'd marry her. She gave me gifts, fish shells. I didn't know what it meant. Now she's angry because I love Amma." The elders whispered, their beads clicking. Munsa grabbed Kofi's arm. "Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice broke, and Kofi felt like a child again, small and scared. Nana Yaw raised his staff. "The river spirit is powerful. A promise to her is binding. But there are ways to face her. Kofi, you must go to the river tonight and confront her." "Alone?" "No," Amma said. "He can't go alone. She'll take him." Nana Yaw's eyes softened. "The river tests us, child." Kofi made the promise. He must face it. Kofi's heart pounded. The river was louder now, water pooling around the huts. He saw fear in his mother's eyes, in Amma's. He thought of the mermaid's cold hand, her sharp eyes. But he also thought of his father, who faced the river and never came back. Maybe this was his chance to be brave. "I'll go," Kofi said, his voice steady for the first time. "But I need to know how to fight her." Nana Yaw nodded. "The river spirit is tied to truth. She can't take you if your heart is honest. Take this." He handed Kofi a small clay amulet carved with a fish. "It holds the strength of our ancestors. Speak your truth and it will protect you." Kofi took the amulet, its weight lighter than the shell but heavy with hope. Amma hugged him, her cheek wet against his. "Come back to me," she whispered. As Kofi walked toward the river, the village behind him, the water rose higher, lapping at his ankles. The mermaid's song filled the air, pulling at him. He clutched the amulet, his heart torn between fear and determination. Tonight he would face the promise he made, and the river that wanted to claim him.